sinking right past the turnpike gates, but you'll just never know. If my velocity starts to make you sweat, then just don't let go. And if the heaven ain't got a vacancy, then we just get up and go.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome along to the Overhead Cam GT500 Winter Series. I'm starting to realise I may have just said that wrong. It's the championship, not series. This is round 4, featuring race 7 and 8. There'll be 2 races here at Brands Hatch. Everybody just getting themselves up and ready to rock and roll. And I am not alone in the comms booth once again. I am joined by sort of internet celebrity once again. And to be fair, not even internet celebrity, just genuine sort of, folklore celebrity, Mr. Tom Gray. Say hello, Tom.
Hello there, chap. Hello. Boy, you are bigging my ego up to no end. It will be the size of Sweden if you carry on with flattery like that by the end of race 1. But yes, hello everybody. Welcome along to round 4. Hopefully we'll have a decent race for you guys here at Brands Hatch. As Tim was saying, the cars have been going out, warming up, just trying to get used to, going 2-3 wide into Druids and down out through Graham Hill Bend and out to Surtees. And apparently it has been, well, calamitous would possibly be a bit of an understatement. What would you say there, Tim?
Well, and judging by the way the safety car has just been spun, yeah, I think it's very much been a calamity. Everyone I've spoke to leading up to this race has been slightly worried about just surviving turn 1 and 2, let alone the entire race. Well, both races, and obviously with the 2 races qualifying before the first race, and then a full reverse grid for race 2, you can only imagine that race 2 is going to be even more barbaric than race 1. So hopefully everyone can keep going and no one rage quits and leaves. You'd like to think so anyway. It's meant to be a friendly championship.
Well, it always seems to be the way that the friendliest of games always turn into the most bitter of rivalries. And, Brands Hatch is a very challenging circuit, especially the GP. And in these GT500 cars, when you come out the back, it's kind of a case of please just turn in and grip up because the barrier comes at you rather quickly. And nobody wants to be starting down the order for race 2. That would be rather disastrous.
So we're going to stay on board. Sorry, Tom. Going to stay on board with the Honda Acti, who is actually this is Bladen, who would normally be driving. I believe it is the Beans car, one of the cars. He's normally actually on the racing grid, but at the moment, due to an injury, isn't able to. So as you can tell, he's trying to full send the Honda Acti as the safety car. But it turns out he doesn't know where the pit in is, so he's trying to learn where the pit in is quickly. As you can probably tell, Tom, not really the most serious of racing championships in the world. The racing is always very fair and clean, but it does always tend to be a bit of a laugh, which is always nice. And as you'll see as we cycle through some of the liveries in just a minute, some of them definitely would not make it onto primetime TV. We'll say that. Not even ITV4 or 5 would put any of some of these liveries on the TV. I think you're probably getting a little bit of trouble.
Yes, no, we'll stick to YouTube for the liveries. I mean, I'm a bit upset to hear that the Beans car isn't going to be making an appearance. I was almost tempted to make some beans on cheese on toast just to show my support. But I have seen a few of the liveries that we have available. Oh, look at that. Absolutely fabulous. Even a Beans seat. That is a beautiful R32 Skyline we have there. But it's also lovely to see that, you know, my dear friend, a man named Davide, he's the chap responsible for Overhead Cam's livery. So it's a very joyous occasion for me to actually see that beautiful livery on the delightful 993 Porsche there. But we have many other liveries and some beautiful cars as well. You know, I've seen, there we go, we've got a lovely Mark IV Supra. Oh my God, is that a Supra? I feel like somebody's got to make that meme before one of the viewers ends up making it for me. We've got a lovely McLaren GTR F1 long tail behind as well. I do like the combination of yellow and light blue, looking absolutely fabulous. And oh, I didn't realize it is an Fernando Alonso tribute. For his 2004 and 5 championship winning years. Let's see if that works. And it appears, if that's not a Harrods livery for the one behind, that it is indeed a Harrods livery. God, look at me. You'd almost think that I know what I'm doing here, Tim. This is marvellous. With overhead cam showing off, as he always likes to do, with a big old drift out the back through Surtees. Let's hope he can keep it on the island, as that is a corner that if you plant your foot a bit too quick, too hasty to get the power down on the straight, you will end up going sideways and straight into the realm of shadows. Behind we then have the Beans R32. I don't know how I feel about the turquoise wheels. How does that sit with you there, Tim?
I think it was meant to originally sort of replicate the Heinz tin, because there was the first race we had a very low res Beans livery. It was all covered in beans, but it was very vague and from a distance. Then race 2 totally changed it up and made it look proper official Heinz colours, and there was such a backlash from everybody at home that he now then went back to full beans. So I think that is the green wheel. I mean, the turquoise wheels are a bit of a sort of a lie over from the original Beans livery, because if we look at the windscreen, you can still see there's a little bit of the Heinz branding, but most of it is now just Beans, which is just great to see. Who have we got behind them? This is a funny one for this one. I thought this is an OnlyFans car. Turns out I'm just a very old man and didn't realise that it's actually to do with Tyler, the Creator. But my fault. I'm old, and I'm not even going to say sorry for that one at all.
I don't know if that makes you old or if you just need to pull your mind out of the gutter there, chap.
I live in the
but again,
Southwest.
we've got.
What can I say? It's just how it is.
Well, at least you're a man that's honest and you're sticking to it, and I'm proud to see it.
So then we've also got Liam in the Lost Mary Supra, and as I've kind of said in previous ones, this is like a modern twist on the old tobacco liveries that you used to see on lots of cars, during the 80s and 90s. So good to see someone making a modern version of it.
Yes, no, of course. Well, obviously, we're not allowed tobacco sponsorship in racing or nicotine. So, hey, this is the world of YouTube where we can make it up and do as we see fit. And I'm actually a big fan of this Lost Mary vaping livery. Looking rather delicious, if I do say so myself. Clearly wants to be sponsored by BBS, and then on to ooh. Now that is a brilliant combination for the rather iconic sponsor in motorsport. That is Canon, looking fabulous, because usually you would see, yellow and white and blue. So to see just a red and white, that looks fabulous. Almost looking a bit like a Ferrari. The livery kind of lying somewhat, making it look a bit like a 550 Maranello, kind of similar to the Pro Drive one that I believe is now in the hands of Girardeau and Co. But coming in behind, it looks like a Mr. Walmsley. Oh, now that is interesting. I don't know how Cadbury's would feel about this one. Almost looking like a bottom-feeding fish from the beginning. And we have Sully and Mike Wazowski enjoying a dart Shout out to our sponsors, Driven as well, lovely. Ah, and then a silk cut spoiler directly above Taj and Come Fly With Me, made famous by, obviously, Mr. David Walliams and Matt Howard. Can't actually remember his name. Matt Lucas, there we go. And then what is this? Talk me through what's going on here then, Tim.
So this is the Zero Fighter NSX. I'm not even sure if this is sort of an original livery or not. All I know is it looks fantastic, lovely bright colours. We love a bit of a Zero Fighter down the side of it. Kind of gives Japanese vibes, which is definitely appropriate for such an iconic Japanese car. And I'm intrigued to see how the Hondas do here this evening. In practice, I was having a little bit of a look at. It did seem to be quite a decent platform. It looked pretty stable around the circuit on all areas as well, not just sector 1 or 2. It seemed to be pretty solid, so it'd be interesting to see how this one continues on. And speaking of NSXs, here's another one. Slightly less garish in colours.
Absolutely. I mean, less garish in colours, and I mean, this is my kind of cup of tea. I mean, just the beautiful little synergy between the red stripe at the front matching up with the airbox and the sort of the rear wing end fence. That is my favourite livery so far. So well done to yourself there, Dan. That it looks absolutely spiffy. And again, it's in the NSX platform, so hopefully we'll see them up at the front. And then is that a Sterling Bank R32? I think that looks rather amazing. Hopefully they can bank themselves some points. I mean, interesting. The R32 car obviously has done very, very well in championships throughout the world, known as Godzilla, but it seems that it needs to try hard to take away the title from the NSX this weekend. And also with an F40 with many a face on it. Hopefully he will go as swiftly as the livery is suggesting. A number 1 and swift, that is brave from a man that is not sat at the top of the championship, because that obviously is currently in the hands of Overhead Cam himself in the 993. And then we have Mr. Well, I'm not going to say that word out loud because I think I might get in trouble. And oh no,
it's all good. You can say whatever you want on this one. It's fine. That's shitbox. That is shitbox, and we had shitfire earlier on. It's fine. I don't think we're monetized. We didn't say it's for kids, so you can swear as much as you like on this one. It's all good, which is quite a rarity, and it takes me a while to get into.
Yes, no, well, I've got a bit of a PC mind on, so give me a few seconds and I shall quickly throw my head into the gutter. But as much as he says, his username is shitbox, that is a beautiful, beautiful livery. Nice to see a Marlboro Gold. I am from Marlboro, and there is nothing I enjoyed more than a gold and a cigarette in the morning. So, it looks like I'm a bit of an NSX fan this weekend. Never saw that coming with F40s and 993s on the grid, and McLarens. I'm a British boy through and through, so it's always good to see the McLarens doing well, especially seeing as I drive a BMW, and famously the only supercar that BMW have ever really made is the McLaren, because it is powered by a beautiful BMW V10 and makes arguably one of the greatest noises that the world has ever been graced with.
I wonder if we can get a slightly better sound of this car. It's always a kind of thing, gotta love Assetto Corsa in the way that not all the cars have the same volume, which is always great, because sometimes, especially the F40s, kind of wail around the circuit, drowning everything else out. And now we're trying to listen intently to the lovely sound of the McLaren. It's rather difficult to hear it. Even when we're on board, it's still a little bit difficult to hear it over everything else. But as soon as we turn the volume up, then an F40 comes past and everyone's speakers explode, and qualifying not going quite so well there for Shitbox, having a rotation. Luke Carnwell makes his way on through. For whatever reason, Taylor decided
I was just about to say, this kind of goes back to what we were discussing earlier. Coming out of Druids, it's a downhill section. As soon as you put your foot down, the rear wheels just want to get away from you. And it being such a tight track, the margin for error is incredibly tiny. Many of the drivers complaining that this is the tightest track that they have been on throughout the championship so far. And a corner that is incredibly simple in what it looks, but actually incredibly difficult to lay the power out just due to that undulation change.
I think Brands Hatch is one of those circuits. You can watch it on TV, you can play it in games, you can do things like that. But when you actually go there and see just how ridiculous say, turn 1 is, turn 2, and then even turn 3, when you see the elevation changes, you were saying, like the undulation of the circuit, it is insane. That I can only imagine that if you're driving in real life, say, coming through here into turn 1, it's just like driving off a cliff, and you know that on the outside of the cliff is a whacking great load of gravel that's just going to stop you dead. Like, obviously in game you can usually sort of get your way through it, but you know, as we've seen many a time, and as Tim Harvey learned last year as well, that if you go in the gravel, then that's kind of it. You just get stuck and you have to be pulled out. It's not the best when you go wide at turn 1.
No, it is incredibly difficult, and you know, I've never done any sort of fast laps, but I've definitely driven around the Brands Hatch circuit, and you know, the undulations, just even on the pit straight, you know, you're coming up towards Paddock Hill Bend, and it almost feels, you know, the car starts rising up, and as you say, you can't really see over the horizon. You can just see the sort of crowd of fans looking at you, wondering if the front end is going to grip up, and then immediately you go downhill, and there's actually bumps in the middle of coming down, and all it wants to do is just, as you say, encourage you out and into the gravel traps Tim Harvey found. And well, he did, like every good racing driver, blame it on something letting go at the front, because no racing driver wants to admit that they just went into a corner a little bit too hot, because well, that way their ego has to take a bit of a dent and a bit of a bruising, I find.
It was a tyre he ended up blaming it on, if I remember. And then I think it was a couple of the other Ford drivers actually during the race weekend did have issues with the same tyre. And you could hear him getting more and more excited in the commentary booth every time someone else had the same incident. It bolstered his idea that it definitely wasn't his fault and that it was definitely all down to the car. So while qualifying is just carrying on for the minute, currently in pole position is Luke Carnwell, followed by Westy and then Shipfire in third. But just with 8.5 minutes left of qualifying, I'm going to have a quick run through the championship standings coming into this round. I know you mentioned earlier on a few of them, Tom, but we'll have a quick run through the lot, including points. So at the moment, Cameron Palmer in the lead with 165, Luke Carnwell with 161, Oak Carnwell with 160, so incredibly close in the top 3. Cameron Montlake is with 114 points in 4th place. Jake West in 5th with 103. Kurt Hall in 6th place with 87. Then we've got Francis Bradfield with 70. Then we also have Matt Snook with 55. Archie Walmsley, which is the horrendous liveried car that we looked at earlier on, which is literally Brainrot purple, with 40 points. Liam running with 36, Dan Shan with 32, Toby Dart with 30, Samuel Barrett 19, Bladen, who is obviously not racing here this evening, he has 12, Jamie in the Beansmobile has 11, and then Taylor with the F1 GTR, which is obviously it's the one that isn't the long tail, currently with 0 points at the moment. But I have been hearing that there is a special prize if you manage to finish the entire championship with 0 points. So possible special prize, I think it was 1 cigarette. This is sort of the kind of prizes on the line here are ridiculous. It's literally one straight, I believe is what it is.
Oh,
so,
well, I mean, given inflation and the amount of tax, that's basically £100 reward these days. 1 cigarette, crumbs. What I would do for one of those, that would be absolutely marvellous. But as you say, you know, up at the top of the championship, it's very, very tight. There's lots to play for here. And, you know, many of the championship contenders are keeping themselves near the front of the grid. As, you know, Cam has just put himself up and into P3 with a 122.9. So he's got quite a long way to go if he wants to unsettle Luke Carnwell up at the top on a 21.7. But 2 very, very different cars, as Cam has decided to be a lawnmower for the next foreseeable. I know, just getting out of the way, being a very good sportsman. How delightful of him.
yeah, did notice he was definitely short shifting as he was coming sort of into sector 2 then. So I wonder if that was either a case of maybe trying to cool the tyres down after a really big push, and then maybe decided to go on the grass. Not the the sort of the average way to try and reduce the temperature in your tyres, but if it works, it works. That's all that has to be done. So having a little bit of a look now at the Thrasher, or is it only Future? It's something Future. I'm sure you better tell me. You're far cooler than me. Either way, it's.
I would also say anytime you see OF on the side of anything, it usually is a subscription-based service. So I have, unless it's only feared, I have no clue what that could stand for. But the yes, Thrasher was possibly Tyler the Creator's album, I believe, famous for having light blue or pink cars. He actually has quite the impressive car collection, does Mr. Tyler the Creator, including a Lancia Delta Integrale S4, BMW 2002. I don't think he has a Ferrari F40, but this livery does look rather magical, even with the subscription-based connotations that it is giving both you and I here in the commentary box.
Just seen in the chat, apparently it's Odd Future, and as I said last time when I got it wrong, I'm old, and I don't know anymore. I don't know anymore. I do this. This is my hobby. I stream sim racing. I'm not a cool person. It's fine. You know, I can't even pretend to be cool. When people say to me, "Oh, are you doing anything this weekend?" It's like, "Oh yeah, I'm commentating on a race." And they look at me with bug eyes and get all excited, and then I suddenly have to say, "Oh no, but it's not like real cars. It's it's just this." But either way, it doesn't matter. It's fine. Some of the teams are real teams. It's quite strange when you're commentating on something and you're like, oh, these are real teams that are paying people to race. Not so much the case here this evening, hence the jovial spirit and the swearing and all those kinds of things, which is quite good. Just looking now, just under 4 minutes of qualifying left. Luke Carnwell still holding on to pole position, Westy still in second, and Overhead Cam still in third place. So not many changes, but a really close grid in general all throughout. I'm just having a look now. Top 13 drivers all within 3 seconds of each other, so that's pretty close stuff.
That is incredibly close. There are plenty of areas for people to make mistakes. I mean, as we see, Shitfire coming through Druid's lovely power slide as he exits the corner, heading himself way down to Graham Hill Bend. Crumbs, I'm forgetting the names of the corners here. I am not doing as well as I had hoped. I do apologise for letting you guys down here in the comms box there, Tim. But as you say, you're old, I'm old and forgetful. So, it could be much worse. At least I can actually remember a couple of things here and there.
I just go for corner numbers at this point. Oh, big slide from Bert. Not sure if that was trying to style it out or what was going on then, but either way, didn't style it out quite as well as he would have wanted to, I don't think.
No, that was definitely a rage quit and back to the pits there. Clearly trying to go for the overhead cam approach of my tyres are warm, I shall put them in the gravel and that will cool them down. Apparently not quite quick enough for his liking. Got that Beans livery, truly is spectacular to see going around through the track. And this is actually, this corner as we go through here is a lot more difficult than many people assume. It's sort of a quick click down of the gear, fling it in, and if your entry is even slightly wrong, either you'll slide miles out or the rear will grip up under power and it will launch you back up onto the inside. And not particularly a place you see overtakes, but if you get it right, the next corner is usually a lovely place to be laid on the brakes and lunge down the inside. And hopefully these drivers remember that these cars are slightly more powerful than touring cars, and that there won't be as much boisterous activity through these tight corners, because otherwise we are definitely going to be seeing plane crash after plane crash over here.
You ever watched the GT3 World Challenge or even the British GT? Have you watched them going around this circuit? Because it's pretty impressive stuff, to be fair, because they are equivalently ginormous cars like these, and obviously they've got a fair bit of a grunt behind them as well, in comparison to a touring car. There is something fantastic about watching them absolutely gun it around our small British circuits, and when they go to Alton Park and places like that, you just have to look at them and think, how on earth are they getting these machines to go around it? I mean, the road cars they're based on are pretty bulky beings, and then once they've had massive, great splitters at the front, spoilers at the rear, and then extra arches and aero bolted onto them, they just become these sort of behemoths of the road. And yeah, it's always very impressive to see them manage to squeeze their way around. I mean, again, turn one, always an absolute, blinder. Always goes completely wrong for everybody. I think every race I've ever watched there in a GT3 car has always ended up someone in the gravel. But it's a similar sized car to these older cars, but again, not quite as powerful because this is a beautiful era of motorsport where safety went out the window and it was just a case of, can we make it? Yes, okay, let's do it. Let's just make it even faster there.
Exactly, you know, it very much reminds me of the old Can-Am series of the sort of the 60s and the 70s of, you know, build a space frame, put a fuel tank in it, add an engine, and hopefully you don't crash. And you know, you look at these tiny little circuits like Brands Hatch, which was, you know, Formula One circuit back in the 60s, built for much smaller cars. I mean, you could probably fit a 60s Formula One car twice into the footprint of these giant GT500 cars, and you know, they had so much less power. Okay, they were lighter, but it just means that the drivers of today have to be so much more accurate with all of the inputs that they're putting in, and they have to have, oh, with a lovely drift around Druids. Well done there, Cam. That made me rather tight in the Prowsey division. No, they've got to be so much more accurate around these tight little circuits. But I think that's why, as fans, as viewers, as commentators, we really enjoy seeing it, because it shows just the amount of skill that racing drivers have. You know, okay, what we are currently commentating over might not be in real life, but still, the skill still has to be present there. And it's why I always like to say that racing drivers, pretty much every level of motorsport, are not mere mortals. They are superhuman. The amount of decisions that their brains are making in sort of fractions of a second just to ride behind somebody or to dive down the inside, or you know, the mathematics and strategy that they're playing to try and one up the people around them. I have absolutely no clue how on earth their brains function, because I think mine would implode within the first 5 laps of a race.
When it comes to maths, any sim racing I've ever done, it's always a case of, I do the maths, I then double check the maths, and then just add another couple of laps worth of fuel because I don't trust my maths well enough. It's always one of those things. I mean, but again, it's one of those things of like, you know, you think about someone that's doing, let's say, like esports or sim racing, as opposed to doing, you know, racing with a real life team, essentially. All those decisions you have to make yourself. You have to like do the setup. You have to do the, you know, everything on the day, the tires, how much fuel you're going to run, you know, whether you're going to fuel save. It all has to be you. So there's quite a few games out there as well where even if you're doing a multi-team race where you can have multiple drivers in the same car, when you come into the pit you swap, it's still the driver that's out there flat out on the circuit that then has to think, oh, hang on, I need to work out the maths on what I need to do with the tire pressures when I come into the pits. You know, if you're doing an endurance race, which you do in some of the, you know, some of the other online simulations, you might have done a 2-hour stint behind the wheel, which in a modern sim, you know, sort of, especially like the lads are using here at home, you know, it's not a case of just, you know, like a Wii steering controller where there's no fight back. They're fighting the car significantly the whole time, so they're tired. It's a physical thing, and you've got that mental strain as well. So there is a fair bit of respect I have for sim racers, and a few of them have gone on to do some pretty impressive stuff as well. Like, you know, look at Jimmy Broadbent. He did the Praga Cup for a little while, and then he was at Goodwood. I think it was the Revival last year, and put on an absolutely fantastic display. I think a lot of people were very surprised to see him, you know, throwing that Mustang around quite the way he was. And then obviously there's a Jardier as well, who has gone from sim racing full time and is now in the European Clio Cup. So a lot of sim racers are slowly starting to get out of their sort of, you know, bedrooms or corners and places and actually getting out into real life cars, and teams are giving them a chance to see if they can do it as well on track as they can in the sim. And it's it's really good to see that some of these guys are being able to do it. But less rabbling on about those bits and pieces. We now actually have people ready to rock and roll.
Ooh, exciting times.
I think it's having a bit of a wobble because it's put Westy in second, or in first, but he's not in first. So not sure what's going on there with the leaderboard on the left-hand side. But I believe that is Luke Carnwell in pole, then Westy in second, then... Why is it? It stacked everybody very strangely. It stacked them all in completely wrong orders, apparently. So not sure what's gone on there. But that's the grid as you can see it, which appears to be Luke Carnwell at the front, then Westy, then that is Shitfire, then we've got Overhead Cam, Liam, then it is Oak Carnwell, and then it's one of the... I think that is Racing Franco, one of the Hondas. It's all got a bit confusing. I don't know why the list has gone all in the wrong order. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. This might be a moment where everything restarts again in a second, because I'm not just seeing that wrong, am I, Tom? That doesn't look right to me.
No, it is definitely an incorrect order. It seems that Assetto Corsa is being run by the FIA at the moment, and everybody is now out of position, so somebody might walk away with a championship that is not deserving, taking us all the way back to Abu Dhabi in 2021. Yes, very peculiar there, so we might have to return to the pits, but I'm sure that the drivers know which order they should be in, so when the Honda Aki goes out, we might actually get somewhat of a closer semblance to the grid. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, lights are up. And we were getting ready for 16 laps of Brands Hatch. This is round 7. All lights are red, and we wait for the green light to go. And they're off. Lights are out. It's a fantastic start for Shitfire. Immediately looking to try and go around the outside of Carnwell. He hasn't quite got the legs to do it, but he's going to be there for turn 1, right on the back of him. I think most people made it through, and that's Oak Carnwell has gone off, but he was the only one to lose it on turn 1. So that is a huge bonus for everybody else around him. Still the battle going on at the front. Shitfire now still trying to find a way around the outside. Looking for a switchback. He might just do it. But now, oh, here we go.
Oh, that was a brilliant bit of driving from overhead. Cam took a defensive position and is now going on the attack, coming up behind Shitfire. Holding the power down on through 30s, and see what I mean? That corner, it will bite you if you try and get on the power too early. Now coming down out the back, this is where you need commitment of plenty. Little dab of brakes, click it down too. Lovely on the apex, running it out wide. You can see how the F40 in front driven by Shitfire. A little bit unsettled there, waiting for the tyres to come towards him. Now this is the corner that takes all of the commitment in the world. Drivers through nicely. I think we have 2 down at the back. Who is that? We've got Snooky and Barrett. Had a bit of a disastrous start coming through Paddock Hill Bend. Not their favourites of start, but this could work out for them in race 2 as Beans. No Beans. Oh dearie me, falling down the order. What a shame that is, as we see a move into the final corner there.
Someone definitely spilled the beans, and not in the way that you want. Here we go, possible move for Racing Franco into turn 1. No, can't do it. Has to then go to the outside. Outbrakes himself, goes super wide. And Westy goes on through. I think we lost another car into the gravel there as well. We did. It was one of the F40s. And they did warn us it might be a little bit hit and miss in this race. And we are already seeing it. Supra on Supra violence incoming. And up in front as well. So at the moment, the only person that's had a completely clean race is Luke Carnwell, who has managed to pull away. Shitfire, after an amazing start, is still holding off overhead cam for the moment. Dan, in one of the NSXs, that we did say about, looking very, very strong here, is rounding out the battle for 4th place. And Shitfire goes super wide.
A little bit of an off there for Shitfire.
I think that was full commitment, though.
Hold it together, though.
So
it looks as if he may have gotten away with that, counting all of his blessings, but it seems that overhead cam really, really wants to get up and down the road, as it feels as if he's being held up a little bit there and falling into the clutches of Dan. There's all of the other cars coming through nicely, and the guys at the back as well, having their own little scrap, very, very tightly contested, it seems. So there are many battles throughout the entire grid, all running a little bit wide. Oh, go on, hold it. Well recovered there, Chief. Well recovered. Lost Mary, clearly making sure that they remain found and not flinging themselves into the pit straight wall. Little bit of a lock up there from Shitfire. Overhead cam, will he make him pay for his mistakes?
You will start to realise through some of this race as well is that not all the cameras work on all the cars. So sometimes I'm cycling through looking for that lovely cockpit cam, which gives us lovely shots, only to find it doesn't exist. This is one of those cars where it doesn't exist. Instead, we have a sort of, I guess, a roof-mounted camera. We'll just say it's a top of the windscreen mounted camera. Looking forward to that battle for 3rd place at the moment. Dan has just dropped away a little bit. It definitely looks like Cameron is stronger through this sort of back section of the circuit as they come out through the woods. I know he was saying the car is an absolute handful through the sort of indie part of the circuit. And I blame the trucks that go racing there for dropping all the diesel on the circuit. That's probably what makes it harder when it comes to it. But at the moment, Overhead Cam is holding on to the back of Shitfire, but Shitfire will be very pleased, showing some real promising pace as we look from the bonnet, or sorry, the roof of the GoPro camera, as I'm just seeing someone saying in the chat as well. Yeah, looking forward, and I think we're going to try and go to a slightly more cinematic camera as Overhead Cam is really starting to put the pressure on. Can he do anything here? Goes a little bit wider in. Shitfire goes a little bit deep, but manages to stop the car on the apex. Defends very nicely there.
Yes, no, that is now the second lap in a row that Shitfire has locked up the inside front. Clearly struggling for a little bit of grip. But Overhead Cam, through the back section of this track, seems to have more confidence than the two cars around him. But unfortunately, just getting the power down and onto the straights is just where he seems to be struggling. We'll see if he can overcome this and coming through and onto the pit straight of this lap. It'll be interesting to see if he can make a bit of a lunge from absolutely nowhere. You know, Cam having a brilliant championship so far, and making noises that he needs to do as much as possible to try and stay on the top step. As we were saying earlier, is incredibly close. But here through this tight section, you can just see that Overhead just seems to have so much more confidence. It's just the getting onto the power that seems to be the issue. He's very, very confident under brakes. Can he get close enough coming onto the back straight? This corner off camber, goes away from it. It's very easy to dip a wheel onto the grass, as we saw with the Lost Mary Supra. Shitbox going all over the place. Cam having a little look, but thinking twice. Just to tuck back in under the rear wing. Can he do anything into the Druids? This is the closest he's been for a long time. Oh, and down the inside. What a lunge from Cam. Beautiful clean racing from the pair of them. Oh, it's a little bit hard getting it down. Again, struggling in that 993 with all of those twin turbos that he's got. And again now, coming down to Surtees. Can Shitfire make him pay for his issue coming out of Graham Hill Bent? He can indeed. Oh, a little bit of a wiggle from Overhead Cam there as well. Got brilliant racing from both drivers.
The race continuing on. Sorry, I was just having to talk to a toddler very briefly then. But absolutely amazing coverage from you, Tom. Absolutely fantastic stuff. And yes, the bit of a chopping and changing of positions. And I think it does seem to be, it's the wily attitude of the Porsche that does seem to be sort of almost Cameron's undoing. It's if he can just manage to keep the back end sort of in the right direction and not sliding out all over the place, he should be able to get past Shitfire. Shitfire definitely seems sort of a stable platform, we'll say that. That mid-engine obviously helping him significantly as opposed to the rear engine setup. Possible another move here?
Oh, you can see, so this is what we were talking about the undulations in the track earlier. You see Shitfire actually taking the mainstay line down the home straight, coming over towards the pit wall before coming left and then down right. Whereas Cam just wanting to go as straight as possible. He is absolutely terrified of that car in the corners, but under the brakes you can see he can usually take a little bit out of the concertina effect, but on the power this car just seems an absolute handful. There is a reason why this was one of the first cars after the AT Cobra to be given the nickname of the Widowmaker. Just wanting to absolutely embarrass him out of every single corner. So some brilliant driving prowess from Cam, just being able to hold on. But how are we doing throughout the rest of the grid there, Tim? We've got a brilliant battle up here, but I can see a few cars on the track map nice and close, a little bit further down the order. There we go, we've got an NSX Supra and then an F40. Again, that beautiful Marlboro Gold livery looking absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, in Marlboro Gold being chased down by the Cursed One, which is the nickname I've given to the horrendous Supra with its horrible, horrifying face on the front of it. It's clearly it's craving a cigarette at this point, so it's desperately chasing after. Mike and Sully obviously need another one, and there's a mistake from Shitbox, goes very wide, big slide, big loss of confidence, and again he touches the grass on the entrance, and so does Walmsley as well. Round he goes. I did not think that Walmsley was going to be the one that dropped out of that, but somehow I think there was a tiny little bump, and obviously just enough to unsettle that car, and it is now fully put the F40 back into the mix. Swift will be very much looking to try and stick himself onto the back of that Honda best he can with his flex tape and hold on and see if he can get on past.
Yes, no, 100% coming down and into Paddock Hill Bend again. A very, very complex corner. The driver's going for two very, very different lines there. Shitbox getting the sort of the better run, but he's locked up. And through goes Swift. Can he keep the inside line? We've got and Shitbox just has to concede a little bit of nose to tail there as the two drivers get under power. But I think, no, it's Shitbox now coming down and into Surtees. He's got the run again. God, this is fabulous racing we are being entertained with here. There is no way that Swift keeps that down around the outside. He is going to have to get an absolutely fabulous drive, but he has. He's kept his nose alongside. I think, no, just losing out right there at the end. I think he'll just have to tuck under and wait until, no! Oh, the commentator's curse. I feel like I shouldn't be commentating directly. I feel like I'm just ruining all of these drivers' races here, as it tends to be a little bit more single file down here. It'd be a very brave move trying to come up through there. He also thinks exactly the same. Tucks under. Little bit of rubber. No! Oh, they've collided.
He is waiting though, so we'll give him a bit of a sportsmanship mark for that one. Although it gets very close, and Archie nearly gets involved in it. Obviously, he was involved in the earlier incident, but now they are 3 wide coming down towards the final turn. It's going to be pretty brave stuff to try and stay like that. I think they've sort of finally worked out what's going on, but Archie trying to go all the way around the outside, holding the power. We nearly had an F40 going into the pits then, but obviously changing his mind at the very last moment and just about holding on to it. Now can Shitbox regain the position up the inside? He's hard on the brakes. Well played by Archie there. I don't think he could have braked much later for that and stayed on the track, so well done to him.
I mean, seeing both of these cars side-by-siders, no, it ends in calamity and drama as it looks like the car decides it's now wearing Jim Carrey's mask as sort of wheels start flying absolutely everywhere. I was about to say he's driving the Brainrot car but using absolutely every ounce of brain power to keep that car glued around the outside on both corners as Cam's still hustling Shitfire. He's really not letting this go. You almost tend to think how much further up the road would Cam be if he could actually get some free air. Is he getting a little bit impatient now?
A risky move to try into turn one, isn't it? And if anything, I think Shitfire gave him the space there. Maybe going for a switchback. Didn't quite work. We've got battles going on behind just as well. We've got Westy battling it out with the 4th place car of Dan, the NSX. So Westy trying to get himself back up the grid a little bit. Oh, and I think there was contact there between Shitfire and Cam. The Honda. Not the Honda, the F40 did look a little bit squirrely, and round the outside he goes. This is full commitment. Can he possibly do anything? I wish the camera was on the other side of the car, but he just about has to concede and tucks back in behind Cameron. As you said, Cameron really does need to continue and push as hard as he can and get away a little bit. Big slide again there from Shitfire. Still on the podium, but he's not where he wanted to be. He wanted that 2nd place spot.
He really did. I mean, there is no lack of commitment from these two chaps. They are using every little square inch of the racetrack, and it's been fabulous to watch the two cars clearly interacting with the circuit very, very differently and strong in opposite sections of the grid. But I think that was very, very kind of Shitfire there. He gave him the room into Druids. I think kind of left the door wide open. And I'm thinking that he's going to start losing too much time to Westy and Dan behind. But as you say, Westy having an absolute brilliant drive catching up to the back, Dan having a brilliant drive catching up to the back of Westy. And as the F40 goes off and the Brainrot Supra, I think he's going to have to concede that spot as well. Or is this going to be, no, there's more contact. Oh, what a shame. Oh, no. It goes from bad to worst for the Swift F40. You've got to feel for it, Tim.
I don't think there's enough. And just as we cut to it as well, perfect timing. Commentator's curse strikes, and that was Racing Franco in the number 4 car, rotating round. We just saw him on the back of Beans. I thought we had a little bit of a battle on, but turns out I reckon the Beans is spilling some of its delicious tomatoey juice, and made a bit of a slick patch there for the Honda, and sadly round it went, so not going the way he would have wanted it to at the moment. Racing Franco Currently, it said he's in 9th place, so still fairly decent. He's inside the top 10. Obviously, 15 drivers out on the track as we speak. And then the only name at the bottom is me in the pit in the little Honda Acti. And speaking of the Honda Acti, we've got to quickly show off a little bit. There it is, with its cute little bug eyes. Sat there patiently waiting for everybody else to keep coming on round. But we'll move away from me now. No one wants to see me for too long. Just, you know, I understand. You want to see the racing, but we do have to show the beautiful little car from time to time. So battles
Speaking of beautiful, this NSX is absolutely fabulous. I mean, if looks could kill, it's just the two NSXs looking fabulous, but this one in particular is just, oh, it's beautiful. I believe, is that Liam's car we're looking at, or is this Dan?
This is
I
Dan.
always get the names confused.
No, it's absolutely fine, and it doesn't help
yes.
that sort of their names don't always necessarily match up to what they are in the Discords and such, so it all becomes a little bit confusing every once in a while. Usually I just have to ask, who won that race? Because the names all get so confusing. Just seeing who is that. I think Walmsley is still battling it out after that little bit of a bump they had after the rejoin. That Shitbox versus Walmsley, the cursed one. They are still squabbling. One of our closest battles on the track at the moment. Overhead Cam as well. We'll jump back towards him. Still being chased down by the Shitfire Ferrari. And to be fair,
I would have thought that Cam would have stretched a bit more of a gap than that. That's actually quite surprising. I mean, Luke at this point has just completely checked out. He's gonzo. He's not got much to worry about now. You know, he's got 4 laps. I think if he just takes it nice and gentle, he can afford to lose a little bit of time here and there. But Overhead Cam clearly still struggling out of the slow speed corners. And now he's coming up to a bit of traffic. Are they going to see the virtual blue flags as he goes wide? Not really helping him there. Will the back marker let both cars through? Yes, very gracefully done. But this has allowed Spitfire to get right up and onto the back of Overhead Cam. Will he make a lunge coming down and into this corner? He's sitting up on the outside. Oh, he goes for the double. Thinking better of it there, wanting to preserve that podium, as you say. He'll be happy with the podium, but he'll be kicking himself that he's not in P2. This is fabulous racing to watch. God, this is making my tingly fizz.
yeah, so absolutely fantastic stuff. Saw them getting past the back marker as well. And actually, while these two were battling for such a long time, it has allowed Westy to get significantly closer up behind them. I don't think he's going to have enough laps to actually get there and apply the pressure. But it does make you think for race 2, Westy is going to be starting in front of these two drivers, and so he should have a fair old chunk of pace to be able to get ahead. I've just noticed, and I hope it doesn't show up on anyone else's screen, I might have just developed a big lump of dead pixels on my screen, which is absolutely fantastic. Hopefully no one else can see it, but for me, I suddenly have a black spot on my monitor. So congratulations to me for that one. I was looking at the map and thinking, what is that? Oh no, wait. I'm going to change camera and hopefully it's going to go away. It might just be that I've gone insane. I've gone insane, everyone at home. It's okay. We're fine. Tom, I'm not going to lose you. I'm not going to descend into the darkness. Yes, there we go.
As a esports racer would say, our friend Super GT, you will not be disappearing into the shadow realm anytime soon. We need you here in the comms box for the last 3 laps. Because this racing is just absolutely brilliant. As you say, Westy, he's really closing up and onto the back of these two, but I think he's just struggling to make the inroads. What do you reckon? 3 laps? Do you reckon that Shitfire can hold off Westy, or is this just going to be all too dramatic at the end and all of us are going to start sweating as if we went to go and see Mr. Patel mask like for an incredibly spicy curry?
I think if the position changes, it's going to be through contact. Even though Westy has the pace, I think Shitfire is going to be full elbows out. He's not going to let that car past easily. You know, I think we're going to, I'm not saying dirty tactics, but very much a case of I'm not giving up the podium position. I'm also seeing in the chat people say that, they sort of said that Westy had sort of slept at the start of the race. I know the Supras do struggle on the start to get going. A possible move here. They might take the pair of them out. Nothing between them at all. Nibbling at his heels like a Jack
really
Russell the postman.
Oh, Westy, really, he must be licking his lips, salivating at the opportunity of not one but possibly two places. As you say, the Supra struggling to really get its tyres up to temperature as quick as the two in front, but you never know, that might mean that tyre wear's a little bit better and he's now able to use that little bit of extra grip to really bring him back. This is incredibly tight for, well, the last two spots on the podium. It could go anybody's way. If I was a gambling man, I'd like to say that Cam could keep his head down and cool and nice and calm and collected, but now Westy, he's got the bit between his teeth. He is really closing into the back of Shitfire. Is he going to make the pair of them pay for that little bit of contact they had coming out of Druids? As we now come onto the main straight, we'll be able to see from the rear camera here just how much it undulates. Overhead cam sticking to the track. In real life, you want to get even further over to the pits, just because it will fling you an aggressive turn in, but nice late apexes from all of them, staying out of trouble. Is there a lock-up from Shitfire? No, he seems to have now gotten on top of that mistake. And overhead cam still struggling to get the power down. Those rear tyres must really be screaming for a bit of TLC now, as now Shitfire coming up towards Surtees. Is he going to have a lunge? No, he's opting to stay on the racing line, cut back a little bit later, give him some more power down the straight, filling into the streamline. Hopefully that helps him. Unfortunately, as we know, now coming down and into the back section, it is a little bit single file here, as we now run on board with Westy as well, carrying much more speed through and out and into the back. Seems to be more confident in these sort of more open corners. Come on, Shitfire, don't lose it now. You've done so well, and oh, Westy! Oh God, my heart is in my mouth. God, this is terrific racing.
So final lap as well has now just been started. It gives you an idea of just how far ahead Luke Carnwell has managed to get himself, as they were still coming towards the sort of penultimate corner when it came around, and so now they are flying into their final lap. There is a decent gap opening up between them, but as we saw last time round, it doesn't always last. Westy a little bit deep there, not quite as much on the apex as he probably would have wanted to be.
And again, you see coming into Druids, just Shitfire has so much more confidence coming out and into the power zone, just getting the power down. Overhead cam really, really struggling with that car, but again, doing so brilliantly to keep his P2 at the moment. This is the corner he's been struggling with, but getting the power down nicely, as it's actually Shitfire who seems to struggle a little bit more through Surtees. Cars, those remaining relatively evenly spread. This is quite a nice sandwich that we are looking at here, as Luke Carnwell, I feel, is just soaking it in, enjoying his victory lap. He was all behind, wanting just to get to that checkered flag and figure out how their strategies are going to differ into race 2. Mild 7, long-tail McLaren, still looking utterly delicious. Oh no, has he had a problem?
I think that was the final lap. I think that's it. I think that he has just crossed the line. We cut to him as he came across the line. It doesn't give you much of a fanfare when it comes to Assetto Corsa. So as they come across the line, obviously we've had Luke Carnwell, overhead cam, Shitfire in third, Westy in fourth, and then we have Dan, who is in the NSX. A very sort of uneventful, but in a good way, race for Dan. He just seemed to lose a little bit of pace in sort of midway through and ended up dropping back ever so slightly. Who is next to come around? I think we may have missed a few of them come across the line. Here comes the Beansmobile, screaming its way. The turbos whistling as much as they possibly can do. That was Mad Mike. Westy has already come across the line. This is the issue. When people jump into the pits, again, it then starts to mess up the order of people coming across the line. Racing Franco, we caught him just coming across the line there as well. It was Swift just in front of him and Taylor just behind. I believe that is all drivers now finished, although technically Taylor obviously is, I think he went a lap down on the leaders, so he is sadly one lap down, it looks like. But either way, fantastic race. There was so much going on through that entire thing. Let's try and jump on board with our leader, wherever he has gone. Here he is, cruising his way back to the pits. Not a care in the world. And that long tail.
No, and
GTR.
absolutely enjoying his in-lap, you know, and I do apologise, completely forgetting what car Luke Carnwell was in there. We didn't really see anything of Luke. You know, as soon as the green flag dropped, he sort of disappeared off into the distance. We didn't really get much chance to see his prowess on track, more focusing on second and third being fought between Overhead Cam and Spitfire. But a brilliant victory, well done, 0 mistakes, and proving that if you have a little bit of clear air and you don't need to worry about people coming in behind, the Brands Hatch really is a delightful circuit to drive. Very, very difficult when you are having to go too wide into some of these corners and down the straights. But a brilliant bit of racing, and God, what a way to start my my journey into commentary. That was brilliant fun.
Was this the first race of any kind you have ever commentated on? Because I'm sure I've seen some bits and pieces. Am I wrong in thinking that?
Well, it depends on what you class as racing. So with the British Touring Car Championship, I do present and commentate the Crazy Kart Championship, which
That is racing.
brilliant.
That is some serious racing. That is. Love a bit of Crazy Kart.
I mean,
Nick Howstead.
It is a brilliant bit of racing, especially when you get to throw inflatables at professional race car drivers. But this is the first proper race with racing cars in that I have had the privilege of being able to sit in the comms box with. And Tim, thank you very much for holding my hand, because race one, I feel that was a total success from us here in the comms box. So well done there, chap. I will virtually shake your hand.
I will accept your virtual handshake. Thank you very much, Tom. So we have a couple of minutes-ish between races. It actually starts the timer for the next race as soon as the first driver crosses the line. So we might have a little while. We might not have a little while. I have just noticed, actually, like I said, that Taylor, who I said went a lap down, I think is actually only now on his in lap. So he should make it into the pits in time. That shouldn't be a problem. But we have a sort of a strange limited amount of time until the next race. But obviously, Luke Carnwell will be very pleased with his finish, coming home in pole position. And that definitely means he is holding on to the top of the championship. He is definitely going to take it away. He would have outscored Cameron in that position. Oh, wait, no, because it was... Oh, it was, yes. So it was Luke was in second place and Oak was in third. So, yeah, definitely means that Cameron has dropped down one position in the championship. So it continues on into round 8, the battle. And just while we're here, let's have a quick little look at the cars that are in the pit. We'll first of all start off with the cutie that is the delicious little Acti, and a quick shout out to our sponsors as well. Shout out to the Driven podcast. In fact, they did a really good episode the other day, actually, where one of their stars went over to the Dakar Rally, which I always try and watch as much of as possible, but sadly not really much coverage. So it was very interesting to hear on the Driven podcast a little bit of more behind the scenes info. There we go. Cars, I think, are about to get ready to jump out onto the grid in just a second. We'll swing the camera around. They're still here at the moment. That's fine. They haven't jumped onto the grid. We're not missing a race like we did at the first one, where I didn't realise the count had already started. But yeah, obviously, huge shout out to the Driven podcast for... the Driven show for supporting us, and shout out obviously to Overhead Cam as well for putting all of this absolute insanity together, and a massive shout out to yourself as well, Tom, for one, giving up your precious time to come in here and yell at Virtual Motorsport, which is obviously always nice. But say, yeah, massive shout out to you as well. It is massively appreciated. Oh, and a quick shout out to JDM Stash, who put together the intro video and the highlights from the 2 rounds at Sugo that we had just before the stream. And I will play again at the end of the stream as well, just as a nice little send off. But yeah, massive shout out. Tom, do you want to remind everybody where people can find you?
Oh, well, that's very kind of you there, chap. Well, yeah, you can find me on TikTok and on Instagram. That Guy Gray, very unimaginative name, but again, it comes all the way back to computing. So, you know, back in the days of Modern Warfare 2, it used to tell you who you were killed by. So I always thought it'd be quite fun to say you were killed by that Guy Gray. So yeah, find me on Instagram and TikTok if you like talking about motorsport, or generally anything automotive, be that planes, boats, cars, history, politics, and a bit of men's mental health, then you're more than welcome to come along, say hello, and join the mad community that has been growing at a vast rate of knots over the past 3 weeks. It's brilliant to have absolutely everybody along, and I am just relishing in this opportunity. No, thank you very, very much for having me along. This is, I just feel like a kid in a candy store as we now have cars on the track. So I believe I should probably hand it back over to you there, Tim.
Okie dokie. Right, we'll have a run through the grid order as it stands. Let's swing the camera around because I was trying to do something and it did not work. Right, pole position for this race is Taylor. Then we have Swift in second place. Then we have Mad Skids Mike. No, we don't. See, again, it's not showing up the same on the timing board as it is in real life. Okay. So, all a bit confusing. Don't know what's going on again. But Taylor is currently in pole position. Then this is Swift. Then we've got Shitbox. Then Archie Walsingham. Then Bert. Then we have Racing Franco, which is a good shout. I can shoot back to him. Then we have Snooky, Mad Skids, Mike, and Oak Carnwell rounding out the top 10. Then we have Liam, Westy, Dan, and then it is, I believe, Overhead Cam, Shitfire, and rounding out the grid at the back is Luke Carnwell. So once again, the game is making it incredibly confusing, but here we go. So if anyone at home can see, that you can see where I'm hovering the mouse on the screen, which hopefully people at home can see, that is where I was very lucky to watch the British Touring Cars final from. And as a Tom Ingram fan, I felt very violated by the fact that just to my left was the Jake Hill, like their full official team. So I did make sure I hung my banner right there on the front and I cheered on as much as possible. But yeah, as we were having a quick chat pre-stream, that you are a bit of a Tom Ingram fan yourself. So good to know that not only are you supporting your fellow Toms, but you've got good taste in cars. But like, lights are ready to rock and roll. They go red as we start the final round of this evening, round 8 in the championship. Who is going to get off the line the best? Everybody off and going. It's a fairly decent start there from everybody. Burt, great start up the inside as well. And Beans as well. The Honda looking very, very strong. Nissan, apologies. Has everyone made it through the wide angle camera? Yes, they have. It is only me still sat in the pits, so it's going to be interesting to see who can hold on to it as they fly down. A little bit of squirrely driving going on. Bert has already broken through and pushed ahead. And who can continue to do it?
Yes.
So,
Clint making use of the four-wheel drive in that Nissan, helping to get the power down and warm up those tyres. Everybody really, really struggling in the first few seconds and corners of this race. Interesting to see how we had a long tail of McLaren win the first race. Start on pole. We now have a McLaren GTR starting in first place. We'll see how that works out. Now we do have the fastest drivers, or the luckiest drivers, however you want to say, starting at the back. So this will hopefully provide some very, very close racing as we've got 2 into the gravel there, Tim.
yeah, then there was a bit of a bump there. Westy getting into the back of somebody, and there was a bit of a chain reaction. As they always say, 2 into 1 does not go, but try to tell a racing driver that, it never works. Oh, Liam making a little bit of a mistake there in the Lost Mary car, loses a little bit of ground. But at the moment, Bert, who we saw at turn 1, Westy gets into a little bit of argy-bargy with Luke Carnwell. Liam now trying to go up the inside as well. They're going to be 3 wide towards turn 1. Liam has managed to get back the position. Luke Carnwell still looking to try and hold on to it. Westy possibly going to go for a switchback, but not able to. Possibly up towards turn 2, as you were saying. This could be the kind of place where moves could happen. And he does get up the inside. There's more contact. Round goes Luke Carnwell. So from a winning race 1 to now finding himself basically playing bumper cars in race 2, it does show how much of a difference it can be when you get stuck in the traffic.
Really, you are 100% correct there, but one person who has made move after move, it appears, is Overhead Cam. He's already up to P4 after starting. Must have been P14. Shitfire, unfortunately, not having the same kind of luck, as we see him getting away from our pole sitter, who now sitting just 2 places behind, unfortunately having a terrible lap 1. clearly really struggling in his McLaren this round at Brands. But the grid's still nice and close together. Is can make that a P3? No, thinking better of it, getting a little bit of a nudge there from Swift. Interestingly, we were saying in the preamble, the NSX seems to be the best platform, but actually they seem to be struggling the most. I don't know if it's struggling to get tyres up to temperature or if it is not actually the correct platform. The overhead cam sticking to the wide line coming into Paddock Hill Bend. That is going to be a very brave move, but he thinks better of it. Seems to be a little bit more confident and smoother under braking. Is he going to do anything in here into Druids? It looks like Racing Franco has got the inside line covered, but no, a little bit of rubbing and racing going on. Overhead cams definitely
go off
a
a
lot
second
more
ago as well. Beans got pushed wide by Snooky. In the background of that shot. Sorry to cut you off, Tom. I had to quickly. The Beans fans at home would be upset if I did not mention that the Beans was rudely violated by Snooky. And I'm going to really show my age and say that wasn't Snooky part of the sort of The Only Way is Essex, those kind of programs? What was it? Was it Jersey Shore? I think it was.
I was about to say this shows my lack of class. I do know it was the Jersey Shore, which yes is the New Jersey or New York version of Geordie Shore. Clearly Snooky wanting maybe a little bit of nookie on this racetrack, getting very close to all of the other drivers. But Beans, as you say, being violated, clearly been speaking to too many Americans and slating baked beans on toast, which I think we can all agree is an absolute top-tier delicacy here in
I don't understand the hatred for beans on toast. I mean, there is another podcast I do listen to. They aren't sponsoring us, so I won't shout them out. But big move up the inside for Shitfire into turn 1. Has he got it done? I'm guessing by the way he moved all the way over. Yes, there was no one there to bump into. In fact, no, he was still side by side. Snooky regains the position. But as I was thinking,
that was a beautiful switchback.
Yeah, I really have no idea how Snooky managed to hold on to that and managed to keep the overlap. A little bit of a weak exit there, though. I think the car got unsettled and snapped left back across the circuit. It's now giving Shitfire a chance to go all the way around the outside, but he runs into the dirt a little bit. He does get the move done. The Ferrari somehow managing to keep the power down all the way over that curb as well. Great bit of racing going on this mid-pack as the faster drivers from race 1 sort of try and battle their way through, looking very tough indeed.
Yes,
but
no,
going back to
very challenging.
Walmsley.
Carry on.
No, it's all right. Walmsley going. As soon as I try and say about Beans, it all goes wrong. And and Archie Walmsley again getting punted off to the outside of the circuit. The cursed one being cursed to stay off the tarmac. In fact, I don't know if maybe his connection is a little bit wobbly because that car looks a little bit jittery on my screen when it goes through the corners. So I wonder if maybe he is struggling slightly to keep it. And it's now Ferrari on Ferrari. It's F40 Civil War. And Swift doesn't put up much of a fight, to be honest. He kind of lets the car of Shitfire come on through. Nice bit of teamwork there, the unofficial teamwork, as we say. But also then Snooky looking to the inside, and Luke Carnwell all battling to make positions. But Carnwell does get caught again behind a driver. He is not having the race that he had in race 1 at all. He's still behind the Ferrari. Now has the cursed one looking at the inside. Oh, and Archie does actually back out of it, I think. Oh, and unsettled himself, I think, by braking hard. So not going the way he would have wanted to at all. Right, baked beans in America are apparently absolutely bloody horrible, and that's why they're not nice. And there's a British guy that is on an American podcast, lives in America, and he gets beans imported from the UK to America because American beans are so disgusting. That's why they think it's gross on toast. And breathe back to the racing.
Here's the thing that's just so ridiculous about that statement, because Heinz is an American company, so why on earth baked beans are terrible in America? I'm just going to put that down to the fact they can have extra preservatives in their food. Lord knows how they've all got such shiny, bright white teeth as compared to us lonely, blighty folk. But overhead cam doing absolutely brilliant now in P1 in a race of his own. We didn't see the move that he made on Bert there. Bert must have suffered from some form of mistake as he goes again wide through Paddock Hill Bend. Really struggling, and now Shitfire and Snooky all catching back up. We've got Racing Franco really struggling in his NSX. There's a bit of rubbing, leaning on the grass on the outside. There is Shipfire. Can he get a nice switchback and a good run down and into Surtees? He's kept it nice and clean, nice and straight, not struggling under power. This is very difficult, but can he do it? Oh, now this is going to be dicey coming into the back. We could have 3 wide. We're definitely going to have 2 wide. Nearly on the grass there. Who's going to be the bravest? I think Shipfire's got it done. That would be a bit of a bad omen trying to sling that one up the inside. But no, he's got that move done. Respectful racing from the pair of those 2 drivers there. Can he make it 2 drivers in 1 lap? This would be some brilliant racing. Everybody absolutely nose to tail. Some great respect going on here. Nobody doing anything stupid, which is what we like to see. Nobody being passed off and into the shadow realm. As here goes Shipfire on Bert. And as Luke Carnwell gets past Racing Franco as well, will he be able to keep it on around the outside? It's very, very bumpy coming onto the home straight. You want to get onto the power, but you need to be nice and patient. Let the track come towards you. Because then we have Racing Franco. Is he going to accept defeat or is he going to go for a lunge? No, he wants it back. And no, there's drama. Luke Carnwell from P1 now doing a bit of a Tim Harvey and going and inspecting all of the pebbles in the gravel trap. What a shame there, but unfortunate ending there for Luke Carnwell. But Beans is now making some moves. Look at this for absolutely everybody.
Gotta love it when the Beans spreading themselves out across the circuit like beans on toast. Oh, there's a mistake there from Carnwell. Again, just put a tyre onto the outside edge of the grass and it just unsettled the car, rotated it round. So now Beans trying to hold off Luke Carnwell. So he was winning and holding on to pole position in the championship coming into this race after that success in race 1, but now immediately finds himself giving up positions and possibly more than just one. Although Carnwell off the pace compared to normal this evening. He normally would be a front runner, but he seems to be struggling in his long tail this evening. Maybe he hasn't got quite the same setup as his brother. Oh, and a big mistake again, self-inflicted this time though.
Yeah, no, that was always going to happen. 2 wide and into that corner. A little bit of a love tap. The amount of inertia that's flowing around in the car, as soon as you have a knock, it's always going to be curtains. And as you say, it's not really working out for Luke Carnwell in this race. But that is motorsport. You know, we see it in the touring cars all the time, that you can have a brilliant race 1, brilliant race 2, and then it just always falls away from you. And trying to battle through the pack, it always throws up some variables that are a little bit unexpected. As Bert having a big lock up there, Racing Franco taking advantage. But again, Bert with the 4-wheel drive in that Skyline, clearly making the use of it out of Druids, taking up as much grass as possible. I know you've got 4-wheel drive, but you are not in the Paris-Dakar. That is left for cars with a little bit more suspension travel than a Nissan Skyline.
Well, the Dacias did really well, which when you think about the Dakar, you don't think Dacia, but it did absolutely fantastic. I think it was that they're called the Dacia Sand Riders. Absolutely wicked little cars, and with some, huge name behind the wheel as well. Sebastian Loeb, obviously of rally fame, and if you don't remember him bombing around in Citroen Xara, then you've lived a short and terrible life, in my opinion, because that's really what got me into motorsport, was Sebastian Loeb absolutely hammering it around all different parts of the world in rally cars.
100%, and I think, it always sparks quite an interesting debate. Obviously, everybody likes to say that Formula One is the pinnacle of motorsport. It's kind of hard to argue that, but the best racing drivers, I would argue, as rally drivers, you've got Colin McRae, Carlos Sainz Sr., you've also got Sebastian Loeb, and pretty much anybody that has a racing driver's license that is born in Finland, because those guys were just born to drive quickly. It seems to be a little bit squirrely for these guys now, really, really starting to struggle. We are 9 laps into a 16-lap race, but it looks as if everybody's concentration is just starting to slip a little bit. Everybody just needs to take a breath, try and get it in. That would have been a little bit foolhardy. Trying to square off the corner as much as possible, get the nose in, which is not working for our Supra driving friend there. Hopefully, he can get straight back onto the back of Racing Franco. Sorry, finding it very hard to remember everybody's names. I have no clue how to do it. Oh, that'd be brave. No thinking better of it. Try and collect it, make sure that you're in a better position coming into the final corner of the racetrack. It's again, it's strategy. You never just want to go straight for it. Somebody's got off the road now, having a little think. Can he get the power down? Oh, this is going to be very, very tight. But both drivers, again, remain very respectful. There's been a little bit of loving and a little bit of tapping here and there, like you would expect from these brilliant racing drivers. But we haven't seen anybody massively punted. Will we see him move down into Paddock Hill Bend? No, going for the wider approach, hopefully getting a better exit, but just getting a snap on the apex there, and it sent him into the gravel. God, my commentator's curse is working overtime. Oh, I'm feeling like I can't walk all of a sudden now. I feel as if I should come out with a Murrayism. That was totally predictable, and it then happened.
Sometimes you've got to go with the golden oldies, haven't you? You've got to pull them out. I think my favourite one at the moment I hear in commentary is still David Addison, like a fat pigeon on a chip, which I still think is possibly the best thing to hear when he said he's all over him like a fat pigeon on a chip. Or I think he also said, oh, we've had a disconnection. We've lost. It's Beans. We've lost Beans. He's gone. We've lost Beans from the server. Right, viewers at home, do not leave just because the beans have been spilt out of the pan. Do not leave. I'm sorry that we've lost the beans. And while that's all going on, Westy and Swift have got together, and it's nearly taken out Carnwell again. And, oh, goodness gracious.
Absolute carnage, weaving their way through the traffic there, though. The McLaren and the NSX doing a fabulous job. Unfortunate there for Westy and for Swifty. Really not going as swiftly as he liked as Westy found his way into the West Country with that spin. Can we see anything down and into Paddock Hill Bend? Looks like the NSX has got the run. Will the McLaren back out? It'd be a brave move to try and hang it around the outside. He's going for it. No, there's a tap. And straight into the gravel trap. Very, very predictable there. Unfortunately, clearly a bit of a hot head there, not wanting to give the space up. It happens. You put that visor down in the crash helmet. Every overtake is possible when you are inside of the sim ring.
Right, let's have a quick run through the order as it stands. So at the moment, overhead cam just absolutely flying away after working his way up through the field, basically from second to last, I think it was. Now finds himself running in pole position, obviously in race 2. The traffic gods have worked in his favour and he has got through. Shipfire having a great second race as well, though, after a great finish in the first race. Now finds himself running in second. Snooky, though, is sniffing around the back of him, looking to try and take the advantage and close in. They've still got another 5 laps to go, so plenty of time to close up the gaps. But for the moment, holding on to it. Oh, where's my camera gone? There it is. Snooky running in 3rd place. Then we have Bert, after his fantastic lightning start, now finds himself in 4th place and being chased down by one of the Hondas of Racing Franco. I will say that a lot of the, you were saying about how do you remember the names of bits and pieces, it is much harder to remember them when they are sort of not real names, when they're sort of meme names or just odd bits and pieces. When it's an actual proper name, far easier to remember. Even when it's not in a language or a sort of, a native to your own tongue. There's some amazing names I've called out over the years. I think there was Bogodowski, Nashkadashvili, people like that. When you're trying to say those names quickly when they're going into a hairpin and battling, that's when it gets a little bit confusing. So hats off to our sort of more mainstream, real life counterparts for managing to do it for as long and as well as they do, because I know after an hour or so of commentating, my brain does start to turn to fluid after a little while.
Yes, no, a bit like brake fluid. You've just been using it so much that it has decided to boil itself. But the drivers, as you say, Bert having an electric start, but unfortunately just finding himself not as high up the grid as we were expecting. And Luke Carnwell now really hustling, racing Franco, really trying to make amends for not the best of starts. That would have been a little bit foolish, thinking better of it. Glad to see it. But again, getting the power down so much better. There's got to be a move on here for it. He's been given the option on the outside. Oh, I don't know. His sphincter is tightening. Oh, there's no contact. How did they not come together? But he's going for the switchback and into Druids. There's a little bit of contact at the bottom of the hill. Racing Franco, though, being respectful, completely taking his nose off there. It's interesting, the undulations in this track, working in some places for Racing Franco, really hindering him in others. There's a little bit of a tap on the exit, so I feel that Racing Franco has now got that seal through Surtees and probably out the back. I feel like we'll probably rejoin these chaps later on in the lap. But these guys are doing a stellar job. I still can't believe Overhead Cam is just so comfortably out in front, and if I have cursed him, I am very, very sorry for that one there, chap. I do apologise in advance.
This is why, this is one of those things of, this is why I always say to myself about the fact that whenever I try and do sim racing, I always make sure that my livery name or team name is the commentator's curse, because then it gives me an excuse for racing badly, because I'm always cursing myself as a commentator. So even if I'm trying to race, it's never going to go well. Oh, we have an update. Then it's from Motors and Mayhem in the chat, which turns out is not Motors and that was basically, he was in the Beans car, a different name on YouTube than he is in the game, but he was in the Beans car, and apparently his internet has dropped out and it kicked him from the server. Oh, we've got a move going on up here as well. We're technically looking at the wrong car, but losing a position to Luke Carnwell there. Luke Carnwell just about doing it, can Burt get himself back under braking? No, thinks better of it. Maybe going to try and use the straight line grunt with GTR to get up the inside here. Don't think he's quite going to make it. Carnwell is doing a textbook job of pulling it back together.
No, that was brilliant racing. Unfortunately, Burt is suffering a bit from the lockup right coming into the apex, and Luke taking full advantage of that and saying, "Thanking you very much there, good sir. I believe this position is now mine." It's Luke struggling through there as well, just running a little bit deep on the brakes and not see now, just trying to. It feels as if he's almost overdriving, trying to now catch up to the back of Luke Carnwell. Just got to take a breath, focus back down. You know, you've got 2 laps left. You never know what's going to happen. There's no need to try and chase it, because that's when things always inevitably go wrong. I find if ever I'm in the sim and I'm trying to set a decent time, I'll set a good one. I think, oh yeah, there's a couple of extra tenths that I can snatch just out of that corner, and before I know it, I've done a triple somersault and I'm having tea with the fishes as I've crashed into the obligatory lake.
Got to ask, what is your sort of sim of choice, or your sort of your normal go-to when it comes to sim racing? Then, if you've got a rig yourself. Oh, mistake from Burt.
Well, so I don't actually have a rig for myself, but I've got many friends that do, and businesses that I'm always talking to. But usually it's P0 setup. I think that Merrill Motorsport Management, a little bit of a shout out for those guys. They've got a brilliant sim rig, Fanatec direct drive driven wheel, butt kicker, so you sort of sat there and all of the vibrations are felt immediately. All my friends at Pursuit Racing who've got a full gyro rig with a H pattern box, that was fun. I was driving an AC Cobra around Goodwood the other week and actually set a time that would have put me P2 in the RAC TT of last year, so feeling relatively confident about my pedaling skills. But I feel like we should head our way back over to Overhead Cam, because we've only got about a lap and a half. We've got about 2 laps remaining. No, as Overhead Cam now crosses the line onto the final lap. We've got Overhead Cam, Shipfire and Snooky going for the podiums. It looks like it's going to remain with everybody holding station. Absolute catastrophe for Cam if he doesn't. But he has really proven that if you just keep your nose out of trouble in the first couple of laps, the race will easily come to you. As you can see, he's still pushing hard. Beautiful line through Surtees there, getting a late apex. That's where you really want to aim for, is just into that white line crossing the track, into the inside curve. That's where you want your front tyre. Now come down, my screen lagging a little bit. Beautiful racing line through there as well. We've got all the confidence in the world, getting on the power in the middle of the corner as well. This is just a bit of a textbook of how to drive Brands Hatch GP circuit. It is a shame that we don't get to see more of this beautiful track on television, as I would say that this is one of the best tracks in the UK, up there with Donington GP. But a defiant race from Overhead Cam there. I'll let you see him across the finish line there, Tim.
Yeah, I think we've got the final corner coming up as well. The battle for second place still seems to be pretty hot. So as soon as we have crossed the line here, we will quickly jump over. But yeah, overhead Cam taking yet another win in his championship. And then we have Shitfire followed by Snooky. Not quite close enough to take away second place, but they will be very, very pleased with what they have managed to do anyway. Carnwell does, after what can only be described as a proper sort of back and forth seesaw of a race, does manage to come home in fourth place, so he'll be pretty pleased with that. Then we have Bert still battling it out with Racing Franco, but does manage to hold on to it. We then also saw Walmsley come across the line with the cursed one just coming up now. Oh no, I chose my cars completely wrong there. I do apologise. Have cars come off the lap? I'm very confused. It's again showing cars in slightly odd positions. I'm sure I just... Oh, goodness gracious, someone flying off the track. Absolutely flying sideways. But again, another fantastic race. It's just been absolutely great watching 2 races. It's been absolutely fantastic to be joined in the booth again by yet another fantastic natural at commentating as well, Tom. It's got to be said. You need to get behind the microphone in a race commentary format as much as you possibly can, I would say. Because you definitely have, well, I would say, you definitely have the flair for it. But I say, that was some fantastic racing across both races.
Well, no, I mean, again, your flattery will get me naked, so continue your peril. I'm guessing it's a good thing that I do not have my webcam turned on at the moment. But no, 2 brilliant races there. Hats off to all of the drivers. These cars are handfuls at the best of times, but on an undulating tight circuit like Brands Hatch, his overhead Cam sending it as much as he possibly can, wanting to show off, and as much as he might do, and clearly he should stick to trying to be a racing driver, less of a drifter. He is not Mad Mike Wadette from the beautiful Isle of New Zealand, as all of the drivers now having a nice little show of donuts. Oh, it's brilliant to see these cars, even if the cams won't allow us to see it. But I think we should bring donuts back as a celebratory thing. I think it's fabulous seeing cars go around in circles, even if they are incredibly small circles. That's it.
Well, we've got some more circle-ish things going on here as well. Which F1 race was it? There was one of them where at one point one of them tried to do donuts, or they were said, can we do donuts? Oh, there we go, got Carnwell drifting as well. I think it's the only time in history, I'm about to say, that we're going to see someone successfully drift a long tail, but it did actually end up going a bit Pete Tong in the end. Cameron still just generally obliterating the tyres. He'll be very, very pleased with his win. He'll be absolutely chuffed with that. I think that's most people back into the pits now, so fingers crossed we should be able to jump into the other Discord chat where the drivers have been chatting throughout the race. Obviously, to anyone at home of a nervous disposition, it's a bit louder than what it's been in with us for a minute or two. So do hang fire for just a second while I quickly do the math and the wizardry to get us into there, because it always requires a little bit of finagling. And Tom, you will have to move over to the standard Assetto Corsa chat as well, if you want to click into that one, and we'll move over and we'll try and have a bit of a chinwag with the guys in there as well.
All right, I shall join you there then, chat. Let's see how this goes.
Right, you are live. you are live.
Hello.
Right, that was what can only be described as absolute carnage, but also absolute beauty the whole way through both those races. Race 1 winner, that was Luke Carnwell, wasn't it? Luke, talk us through that race 1, because you seem to have it pretty buttoned up the whole way through.
Quiet, pretty much. I don't know. It was pretty easy to drive this car, so I just kept it facing the right way, pretty much.
Which is very different to race 2, where it seemed like you had to battle your way through. You were battling against curbs, grass, gravel, other cars, more grass and gravel, a couple of other cars, and yourself. But you still came home. I think it was 4th in the end, so not a bad finish. But what happened there? Because it seemed like Cameron and Shitfire managed to just break their way through and fly forwards, but you didn't seem to have the same luck as race 1.
Nah, I don't know. I can't even remember. I went off that many times. I can't remember how it started or what the first one was. But the first punt was you take it on the chin, and then I tried to make my way back up, and then I got punted off and dropped back again. And then once you got that that fire in you, and your tires are also on fire, it's just one thing after another, and then it just all goes south. So I had to have a lap of cooling down and then make my way back up. But the main thing was getting through everyone twice. That was the issue.
Well, you did do it in the end. You were just off the podium, obviously, in that final race, but very, very close to it, and still a fantastic effort. And then, obviously, let's talk to our race winner from race 2, which I'm sure none of us have ever heard of before in our lives. I don't even know who this guy is. Overhead Cam or Cameron. Talk us through it, then, mate. Because race 1, so you did pretty well in race 1, getting on the podium, and then race 2, you managed to go for a double podium. So. Talk us through that one, because it looked wily.
Highly unexpected. After practicing with the Porsche a little bit, I was pretty confident that this would be my worst round, just because obviously it struggles with the tight turns, especially leaving them. It just kind of wants to continue turning rather than going straight. Race 1 was awesome. Obviously, you saw that me and Cam were having many laps worth of battles. It was a bit of a bungee cord effect, getting up close, bottling an attempt, having to back off, realign myself. But yeah, really glad that I managed to get through him cleanly at the end, because my main worry was taking him out. He's been taken out a fair few times by others throughout the championship, so I didn't want to be another one. Race 2 was absolute chaos. I have honestly not really sure how I managed to get through that pack without being knocked or knocking into anyone else. There was chaos all around me. But yeah, finally managing to make my way through Franco, who is a very good defender, and jumps lines too fast for me to keep up with. Just waiting for a mistake again, and yeah, managed to get some clean air and run away with it.
The days. We could obviously chat with everybody here for absolutely hours, but I think all of us are probably in need of a drink after those 2 races. I want to quickly give the platform to Tom, or that guy Gray, as other people may know him. Just to sort of any questions you wanted to ask the drivers.
Yeah, well, I mean, chaps, hats off to absolutely all of you for mostly keeping it on the island. Those cars are looking incredibly difficult through those tight bends and mainly the exits, if I'm being honest. But if you've got any grievances that you'd like to hash out, please feel free in an orderly fashion to suggest who you want to slap round the face for punting you off into the shadow realm. Anybody want to go first?
No.
Go on, Lewis.
Here we go.
I just want everything done with.
So everyone always says this after the race because everyone's tired, and then literally we have a channel in Discord that is purely for grievances and issues, and every single time we finish a race, everyone's like, yeah, maybe something. Next day, filled. Every single time. Everyone wants to beef after they've had a sleep.
Well, I think that's it. They have some time to rest, relax, go through the situations that have occurred. But Cam, I just want to quickly say thank you very much for getting me involved in this absolute carnage of esports. It's been great fun. I think it's fair to say that the Lord Baby Jesus was looking after you in race 2. The fact that you managed to carve through the pack so triumphantly, and I'm glad that I didn't curse any single one of you. But just want to say it was a massive honour. So thank you very much. And Tim, special shout out for you for holding my hand and making me feel as if I am some form of David Croft. No, that was absolutely brilliant there, chaps. Well done.
Well, it was an absolute pleasure to have you, fella. Thank you so much for coming. Hopefully you enjoyed and it lived up to expectations. I know you're used to a little bit more of a professional outfit, but thankfully we just it's just a bit of fun at the end of the day, and yeah, hopefully everyone watching enjoyed as well.
No, 100%, and thank you very much to everybody watching as well. No, I've had an absolute brilliant time. Watching all of you try and keep it on the island was mightily impressive, and it's called into question my ability of whether or not I can actually race on a sim, because I think that all of you chaps would put me to shame within about 5 seconds flat.
Well, Summer Championship, we will be holding tryouts for the Summer Championship eventually after we're all done with this one. So Feel free to throw
All
your
right,
hat in the
well-
ring.
Well, I will be hopefully getting my ARDS license in the real world very, very, very soon. So you'll have to keep your eyes peeled for that. And if I can keep my bring my racing prowess from the real world into the virtual, then there may be some cause for me to send one up the
Best way
inside
to
and boot
practice.
you into the shadow realm.
Best way to
exactly.
practice without the risk of your wallet disintegrating instantly.
No, very true. But luckily, the guys that put me through my ARDS, they've said that I don't have to pay for crash damage. Wahey!
Oh, brilliant! Test it out. Go for it. Test it out. There you go.
Right then, everybody.
10 minutes of work.
Right, everybody.
Well, thank you as always, Tim.
Absolute pleasure, boys. Next round, obviously, is also Autopolis International. I've never been to that circuit. Well, there we go. That's next time round. So everybody at home, thank you for joining us. And all the lads in here that have been racing, all the boys and girls at home that have been watching. Again, shout out to Tom for joining me in the comms booth. It's been fantastic. But if you all want to go absolutely bonkers and wild and yell, and then I'll eventually mute you guys and finish the stream.
Bye.
It's the only time you have to.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you, Tim. Love you.
There might be something outside your window, but you just never know. It could be something right past the turnpike gates, but you'll just never know. If my velocity starts to make you sweat, then just don't let go. And if the heaven ain't got a vacancy, then we just